Hi, and welcome to Early Retirement Roadmap, the show where I help you prepare for and thrive in early retirement. When I was 40, I thought the hardest part of retirement would be figuring out how much money I needed. Now I'm 57 and I've been retired for almost 2 years. And what surprises me is that the money was only part of it. The harder lessons were about how quickly time disappears, how easily work can take over your life, and how long you can keep moving the retirement finish line without even realizing you're doing it. So, if I could sit down with my 40-year-old self today, these are the 8 things I would tell him. A few of these lessons might have helped me retire sooner, but more importantly, all of them would have helped me live better during the years before I retired. And even if you're already in your 50s or 60s, this isn't about looking backward and beating yourself up over what you should have done. That accomplishes absolutely nothing. It's about recognizing what still matters while you have time to do something about it. The first thing I would tell my 40-year-old self is that time disappears much faster than you think. When you're 40, age 57 sounds far away. It's 17 years into the future. You assume there will be plenty of time later to slow down, take better care of yourself, travel, spend more time with your family, develop some hobbies, and enjoy everything you've been working for. But 17 years is only about 6,200 days, and they go by quickly. You go to work, you come home, you take care of the house, you handle whatever problem has appeared that week. You get through another busy month. And suddenly, something you thought happened a few years ago actually happened 10 years ago. That has been one of the biggest surprises for me in retirement. The value of a year feels different now than it did when I was 40. At 40, I looked at an additional year of work mostly in financial terms. That was another year of income, another year saving, another year for my investments to grow. And all of that was true. But now I can also see the other side of that trade. One more year of work is also one less year of retirement. It's also one less year when you are as young and healthy as you are today. And that doesn't mean everyone should immediately walk into work tomorrow, dramatically throw their badge on the desk, and announce that Mike from a podcast said, "Time's running out." It means we should stop treating time as if it has no value until after we retire. Now, money can be replaced, but another healthy year can't. And that leads to the second thing I wish I understood at 40. Work will take every part of your life that you don't protect. I don't say that because I think work is bad. Work gave me an income, helped me provide for my family, and allowed me to build the investments that eventually made retirement possible. Work can also give us purpose, challenge, and a sense we're contributing something. But work has a remarkable ability to expand. There is always another project, another deadline, another problem, another email, and another meeting that probably could have been an email. And if you don't create boundaries, work will quietly move into your evenings, your weekends, your vacations, and even the time when you're technically not working, but you're still thinking about work. That was probably the part I underestimated the most. Work did not always take my time by physically keeping me at the office. Sometimes it took my time because my body was home, but my mind was still working. And when that goes on long enough, it begins to feel normal. You tell yourself, this is just a busy season. Once this project is finished, things will calm down. Once this particular problem is solved, you'll have more time. But there is usually another project waiting behind it. What I know now is that your employer is never going to protect your personal life for you. That is your responsibility. You have to protect your health. You have to protect your relationships. You have to protect your time away from work, and you have to develop an identity that is larger than your job title. Because eventually, one way or another, the job ends. And when I retired, work continued without me. I don't mean that negatively. That is simply how organizations operate. People move on, responsibilities get reassigned, and the machine keeps running. That realization can be uncomfortable, but it can also be freeing. You can take your work seriously without allowing it to become your entire life. The third thing I would tell my 40-year-old self is that what feels like a midlife crisis may actually be clarity. Somewhere in your 40s or 50s, you may start feeling differently about work and life. Things that used to feel important may not feel quite as important anymore. You may become less tolerant of spending your time on problems that, well, just seem pointless. You may start wondering whether this is really how you want to spend the next 10 or 15 years. And sometimes we interpret those feelings as something being wrong with us. Maybe I'm becoming lazy. Maybe I'm ungrateful. Maybe I should just stop complaining and be happy that I have a good job. But what if those feelings are not a crisis? What if they are information? What if you are finally becoming clear about what matters to you? Now, there is a responsible way and an irresponsible way to respond to that feeling. The irresponsible way is to panic, quit your job with no plan, buy something enormously expensive like the cliche man who buys a sports car as they're having a midlife crisis, or completely blow up a life that may actually contain a lot of good things. The responsible way is to listen to what the dissatisfaction is telling you. Maybe you need to improve your finances. Maybe you need to reduce debt or lower your expenses or strengthen your health. Maybe you need to repair a relationship that's been neglected. Maybe you need to develop interests outside work. Or maybe you need to begin creating a realistic exit plan instead of assuming you will simply work until some distant age and figure everything out then. Looking back, I think the desire to retire early was not just about escaping work, it was about wanting more ownership of my life. I wanted my time to feel like it belonged to me again. And once I understood that, I could channel that feeling into planning instead of frustration. So if you feel increasingly restless in your 40s or 50s, that doesn't automatically mean something is wrong with you. It may mean you are beginning to see your time differently. Don't ignore that feeling, but don't let it make your decisions for you either. Use it. The fourth thing I wish I knew at 40 is that money can buy freedom, but only if you decide what enough means. At 40, I mostly thought about money in terms of security. The more I earned, saved, and invested, the safer I would be. And that's partly true. Money gives you protection, it helps you absorb an unexpected expense, survive a job loss, and sleep better at night. But now that I'm retired, I see another purpose for money that may be even more valuable. Money can buy freedom, and money can give you control over more of your time. It can give you the ability to turn down something you don't want to do. It can allow you to help someone you care about. And eventually, it can give you the ability to stop trading most of your waking hours for another paycheck. That is what I was really building all those years, even though I didn't always think of it that way. I wasn't just building a retirement account, I was gradually buying back control over my future life. But here's the problem. Money does not automatically turn into freedom. You can accumulate a great deal of it and still feel completely unable to stop working. And the reason is that there is always a higher number. If 1 million feels good, 1.5 million feels safer. If 1.5 million feels safe, 2 million feels better, and it goes on and on. If a Monte Carlo simulation shows a 92% chance of success, It's easy to think 97% will give you the go ahead, you can retire. Then you reach 97% and start thinking you'd feel best if it was 99% and will retire then, which is actually a lot higher and a lot more conservative than most retirement experts recommend. This puts the goalpost on wheels. And if you never decide what enough means, the money never gets converted into freedom. It just remains a larger and larger number that you're afraid to stop adding to. That surprised me. I assumed that once I reached a certain financial point, the decision to retire would become obvious. I thought the numbers would tap me on the shoulder and say, "Hey, Mike, congratulations. You're officially done now." They didn't. There was always a reason to work one more year of income, employer health insurance, one more year for the portfolio to grow, one more year to protect against some future problem I hadn't even thought of yet. Every one of those arguments can be financially reasonable. But if you keep accepting every reasonable argument for working longer, you may never reach the part where the money actually improves your life. At some point, I had to decide that the purpose of all that saving was not simply to keep saving. The purpose was to create choices. Retiring at 55 required me to accept that I could build a strong plan without building a perfect one. I could prepare for market declines, inflation, healthcare costs, taxes, and unexpected expenses, but I could not guarantee that nothing difficult would ever happen. No amount of money can do that. So deciding what was enough did not mean deciding I had eliminated every risk. It meant deciding I had enough resources, enough flexibility, and enough ways to adjust if life didn't go exactly according to plan. That was the point when the money finally began doing what I had spent decades building it to do. It gave me my time back. And that is what I would tell my 40-year-old self. Don't only ask how much money you can accumulate, ask what you want that money to make possible. How much control over your time would be enough? How much flexibility would be enough? How much money is truly enough? Because if you never define enough, work has no natural finish line. And money that never gives you more control over your life is not yet freedom, it's simply money. The fifth lesson is less dramatic, but it may be one that actually made my retirement possible. Consistency mattered much more than any brilliant financial move. I did not retire because I discovered one incredible investment. I did not perfectly predict when the stock market would rise or fall. I did not uncover some secret retirement strategy. I earned money, saved part of it, invested consistently, and kept doing that for a very long time. Now, that's not very exciting, but it works. When you're younger, it is easy to believe that financial success must come from doing something exceptional, finding the perfect stock, buying real estate at exactly the right time, starting a wildly profitable business, or making one big move that changes everything. Now, those things can happen, but they can also fail spectacularly. The quieter path is to avoid lifestyle inflation, save consistently, invest in a diversified way and low cost and simple way, like I just invested in indexed ETFs and mutual funds for the most part, and give compounding time to work. Later in my investing life, I actually became more comfortable with simplicity, not less. I stopped believing my financial plan needed to be complicated in order to be intelligent. A complicated plan can still be a bad plan. And simple doesn't mean careless. You still need to understand what you own, manage risk, think about taxes, and adjust as your life changes. But complexity itself is not a return producing asset. If I could talk to my 40-year-old self, I would tell him not to spend so much time worrying that everyone else knew something he didn't. Most successful retirement plans are built through a lot of ordinary decisions repeated for many years. I didn't retire because I found the perfect investment. I retired just because I kept investing. The sixth thing I wish I knew is that stress and health compound too. Of course, we talk about financial compounding. We understand that a dollar invested today will become several dollars years from now. But other things compound as well. Stress compounds, poor sleep compounds, inactivity compounds, ignoring your health compounds. And unfortunately, the returns on that type of compounding are not fun. At 40, health can feel dependable. You may not feel quite as good as you did at 25, but generally, your body still does what you ask it to do. So it becomes easy to tell yourself that you'll focus more on your health later. After this busy period, after the kids are older, after work settles down, or after you retire. But your body doesn't wait patiently while you finish your retirement plan. What surprises me now as a retiree is how closely health and freedom are connected. You can have enough money to retire, but if you do not have the energy, strength, or mobility to enjoy the life you planned, the financial success feels a lot less successful. That is why I now think of health as part of a retirement portfolio. It doesn't appear on a brokerage statement, but it may be the most valuable asset you have. And just like investing, you usually do not improve it through one heroic effort. It's built through ordinary habits: walking, strength training, cycling, eating reasonably well most of the time, getting enough sleep, managing stress instead of treating it like proof you're important. I certainly did not understand all of this at 40, but I understand the stakes quite differently now. I don't exercise because I'm trying to impress anyone. I do it because I want to remain independent and capable and just feel good. I want to travel, garden, ride my bike, and enjoy the freedom I spent decades building. The retirement plan is not just about making the money last, it's also about making sure you can use the life that money supports. The seventh thing I would tell my 40-year-old self is not to postpone the people I plan to enjoy retirement with. Now, this one is easy to get backward. We tell ourselves we're working hard for our families, and often we are. We want to provide a good home, pay the bills, give our children opportunities, save for the future, and create financial security. Those are loving and responsible goals. But it is possible to work so hard for the people you love that you gradually give them only whatever time and energy remain after work has taken its share. The people you hope to enjoy retirement with need you before retirement too. As children grow up, parents get older, marriages change, friendships either receive attention or slowly fade. And some experiences cannot simply be rescheduled for 10 years later. One of the things I appreciate most now is having more time with my wife and daughter. But I also know retirement does not erase the years that came before it. You cannot save relationships in a retirement account and withdraw them later. They need regular contributions too. That does not mean every week needs to become a perfectly curated family experience. Some of the best memories are ordinary. Having dinner together, taking a simple trip, laughing about something stupid, being available when somebody needs to talk. Those moments can feel optional when you're busy, and well, they can also feel just not very important. I wish I understood sooner that there is a difference between providing for your family and being present with your family. And you really need both. And finally, the eighth thing I wish I knew at 40 is that you have to build a life before you retire into it. Before I retired, I spent years preparing financially. I thought about investments, spending, health insurance, withdrawal strategies, and whether the plan could survive difficult markets. That preparation matters, of course, but retirement is not simply your life with the job deleted. Once the job disappears, something has to fill that space. One of the biggest concerns people have about retirement is boredom. I understand that fear, but I have not found retirement boring at all. My days include gardening, playing piano, cycling, strength training, cooking, planning travel, working on this podcast and my YouTube channel, and spending time with my family. The interesting thing is that many of those interests did not magically appear on the day I retired. They were already part of me, or they were things I was curious enough to begin developing. Retirement gave me more room for them. That's an important distinction. Retirement gives you time, but it does not automatically tell you what that time is for. If your entire identity, social life, and sense of purpose come from work, retirement may feel less like freedom and more like being dropped into an empty room. That is why I would tell my 40-year-old self to start building the non work parts of life earlier. Develop hobbies while you're still working. Take care of friendships. Think about what gives you purpose when nobody is paying you. Learn how to enjoy an ordinary day. And don't put every meaningful experience into the someday bucket. You still need to save for the future, and I'm not suggesting that you spend recklessly because tomorrow is not guaranteed. But there has to be some balance. Do not assume the healthiest, most energetic version of you will always be waiting in retirement to complete everything you postpone. Take some of those trips, create some of the memories, spend time with the people who matter, and begin becoming the person you hope to be in retirement before your final day of work. So, if I could sit down today with my 40-year-old self, I would tell him that time will move faster than he expects. Work will take whatever he fails to protect. Restless in midlife may be useful information. Money should buy freedom, but he has to decide what enough means. Consistency will matter more than brilliance. His health belongs in the retirement plan. The people he loves need his time now, and he should begin building a life that work is only one part of. Financial freedom is not the finish line. It is what gives you the opportunity to spend more of your limited time on the life that matters to you. Now, before we go, I'd also like to invite you to consider joining my Patreon. You can join for free, and I have a lot of free tools for you to use. Things like my ACA Manager Estimator, Retirement Readiness Scorecard, Cash Runway Worksheet, 10 Ways to Lower Your ACA Premiums ebook, and more. And if you'd like to go a step further, consider joining as a Roadmap member. It's just $5 a month and gets you early access to new podcast episodes, all of my podcast episodes ad-free, and access to the private Roadmap member community discussion space where paid members can ask questions, share experiences, compare notes, and communicate with others, including me, who are thinking seriously about retirement or living it, and learning from those of us that have retired. You can join my Patreon for free or become a Roadmap member by using the link in the description or using the QR code on your screen. And go to mikeupland.com for all of my media. Thank you so much for listening, and until next time, take care and make the most of today.